Hello YouTube. I recently received a couple requests for a tutorial video for a ukulele arrangement of Memory from the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack that I uploaded a couple weeks ago. So here it is. I'm going to break the song down into 4 sections and go over each one, explaining fingering and chord shapes. I'll include tabs and notation in the corner of the video so that you can follow along. Trying to play this piece on uke led to some pretty unfamiliar shapes for me, so I think that'll be pretty helpful. Lastly, I've posted a link in the video description to a free PDF that I made of sheet music and tab for this tutorial. That should probably clear up anything I might miss in the video. So here it goes. First of all, I should explain the numbers that I'm going to use for the fingers and the strings in case you're unfamiliar with the system. Your fingers are numbered 1 through 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And the strings are also numbered 1 through 4 from the bottom string up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. For this arrangement, I tried to stay as close to the original music box version as I could. We're giving a priority to the melody and placing the chords underneath that melody whenever they appear in the original. With all these chords, you should try to let them ring as long as possible before you let go of them. It helps them sound more like a music box or like a keyboard instrument. So to start the piece, we're going to be moving back and forth between a couple different versions of an F7 chord. Our first note is a D, right here on the 5th fret of the 1st string. We're going to play that with our 4th finger and slide into our first chord shape. That first chord is going to be your 1st finger at the 5th fret of the 3rd string, your 2nd finger at the 6th fret of the 2nd string, and your 4th finger at the 8th fret of the 1st string. Then you're also including the open 4th string. And we're going to play that first note again by itself, and then we're going to come down into this normal F7 that you've probably played before, but we're going to leave out the 1st string because the melody note is this F. So that's the first 2 chords. We repeat the first one after that, and then we start again with that same D note, except we're going to play it here at the 10th fret of the 2nd string, because it sets us up for our next chord shape right here with a bar across the 8th fret and then your 2nd finger playing the 9th fret of string 2, and then you continue the melody like this. So all together that sounds like this. The second section starts on this D flat note here at the 4th fret of the 1st string. That's another pickup that's going to lead us into our next chord shape, which is this B flat minor 9 shape. We end up hanging out on this chord for a little while. While the melody continues, there's this rising chromatic line going from the 5th up to the minor 7. Which adds a lot of cool tension. So to accommodate that, we keep having to change our chord underneath the melody. So it's going to look like this. So in the next section, we end up here on this E flat minor 9 chord. Since the melody is getting pretty low at this point, most of the chord voicings are going to be rootless. Some of them are going to include notes on the 4th string that are above the melody note. When this happens, I've placed these notes in parentheses to show that they're not part of the melody. To my ear, the melody still comes through, but I think it helps if you play those notes, a little harder than the other strings to bring them out. So the first shape here is at the 1st fret, and it looks kind of like a B flat minor chord, except we're going to leave out the 1st string because this F on the 2nd string is our melody note. So we play that, and we walk back up to that from this D flat at the first fret of the third string. And when we get back to that F, we play an F7 shape, which is really acting as a substitute for like an A flat 13. And then we move up to a different version of that A flat 13, up at the fourth fret with a bar across strings 2, 3, and 4, and our third finger on the sixth fret of string 3. And the melody notes continue. And then we come to this E7, which then resolves to a B flat 7. So altogether, the third section sounds like. Finally, we have the fourth part. Again, we're getting into it with a pickup note coming from this B flat here on the first string, which is part of that B flat 7 that we ended the last section with. And then that takes us into an E flat 7 sus4. Looks like this. And then that sus4 resolves to the third with the A flat on your fourth fret of your second string resolving down to the G on the third fret. Then we have another B flat pickup note, this time on the fourth string. And then we move into a 2-5-1 in the key of D flat. So we get this E flat minor 7 to an A flat 7 to a D flat 6. So all of this is capped off with a turnaround that brings us back to the beginning of the piece. In the original, it's a string of dominant chords moving down chromatically. I think these two-note voicings imply that progression reasonably well and keep the same melodic motion in the top voice. So here's what we have for our voicings. It's frets 7 on the third string and 5 on the second string. And then both strings at fret 6. And then we move down to frets 5 on the third string and 3 on the second string. And then both strings at fret 4. So that whole fourth section sounds like this. And then we start over. Now that we've learned all four sections, you can play the whole song. You play the whole thing twice, and then after that final, you play the first 3 phrases of the beginning, and then you end on that first chord. Like that. Alright. I hope that was clear and not too full of music theory jargon. Please leave a comment if there's anything that needs further clarification, and check the link in the description for a free transcription of both traditional notation and tab. Thanks for watching and for the request.